Hello, everybody. Welcome to the American Cinematheque at the Los Feliz 3. Thank you guys so much for being here for Pillow Talk on 35mm. Make some noise for that. And could we have a whole separate round of applause for Tom, our projectionist, who's running this film reel to reel. This is a really, really, really beautiful looking, pretty much untouched 35mm print of this film. So you guys are in for a very special treat. You're also in for a very special treat because tonight is co-hosted and co-presented by the Greg Proops Film Club podcast, available everywhere you listen to podcasts. Mr. Greg Proops himself will be up here in just a moment to do a live taping of said podcast, and you guys will all enjoy that before the film, and he'll talk about the film. And I'm just here to real quickly talk about some of the stuff we got coming up. It's a lot, so I'm going to reference this. A bunch of new restorations. Killer of Sheep plays after this at 10 o'clock. If you want to check that out, that's a brand new 4K restoration. Also, new restorations of Played As It Lays, Elephant Man, Princess Mononoke. All those are coming up in this coming week. A brand new, really cool film called Misericordia is showing. Martin Scorsese's Mean Streets. We've got First Blood. We've got Persona on 35mm coming up. Lahane on 35mm coming up. It's a really good week here at the LF3. Check our website, AmericanCinematheque.com, for everything going on across all three theaters. I want to thank everyone in here who is a Cinematheque member, because we couldn't do any of those things that I just said without you guys. We wouldn't exist without the membership support, so thank you so, so much. And very last thing I'm going to say is please no phones out as soon as the film comes on. We have a very strict no phone policy in here, so thanks for your cooperation on that. And now, without further ado, please help me welcome to the stage our host, Greg Proops.
Hooray, hurrah! Once again, the Greg Proops Film Club convenes here at Hollywood's most enchanting cinematic confabulation, the American Cinematheque here at the Los Feliz 3. This is where you applaud. Hooray! Very excited with the condition of things as they are, being utterly scandalous, that tonight we're going to screen the fantastic 1959 comedy with Rock Hudson and Doris Day, Pillow Talk. Yeah. I'm as excited as you are, and I've seen this movie a couple times. What a glorious comedy this is. And I'm very excited you could all come out tonight, all you Proopstillions and film buffs here. We're going to have a... this is water, by the way, filled with vodka. So, thanks for coming out on a Wednesday night. I know it's a school night, although I know, because the way show business is, no one has any fucking work tomorrow. So, welcome to the movies. We're going to have some laughs and some fun and forget about the world for a whole hour and a half. And if you've never seen this picture before, maybe a couple things we should cover. It was made in 1959. I was going to say the year I was born because it's true, but I didn't want to scare everyone to death. I heard about this movie from my grandparents, and they said it was so funny. That was where you were supposed to laugh. So it's a comedy show. It was made in 1959, so all of the, let's just say, mores of the film are not the same as the ones we subscribe to today. You'll find there's some awesome sexism and some errant ageism, and older fat women are poor decision makers. And a lot of the tropes that I think we've become so familiar with that have, of course, been brought back and put into the Constitution right now. So, yes, black people very good at music. Yeah, a lot of reassuring things to make white people feel real confident about the 5 months they have for a future. In any case, it's a pretty hip and swinging film. Michael Gordon, who directed it, was a director of taut, suspenseful thrillers until Hollywood sought to blacklist him in the 50s, and he went to Australia. And when he came back, he made nothing but frothy comedies, several with our Doris Day. He made Touch of Mink, and I think Never Come Back as well, with Doris Day. And you'll find that this is a peppy, pacey little movie in blasting Technicolor, and uses so many great things that we came to expect later on in the 60s and 70s from sitcoms, such as when something happens and no one expects it, they'll do a take to the camera and you hear, boing, and stuff like that. So it's really fun in that way. It's a sex comedy with no sex in it, because it's 1959. And as you know, there was no homosexuality, there were no black people, there were no Latin people, and nothing ever happened in America. And it follows that through line. Doris Day, I find marvelously funny in this. It was a real career changer for Rock Hudson and Doris Day, and I presume you know who they are since you're sitting here. And if you're out there listening to the podcast in Proopcast land, it is available on Tubi or one of those horrible streaming things. Anyway, Rock Hudson was a very gorgeous, and when you watch the movie, I think that's what'll come through most of all for you. And a lot of people say, the movie has got all these deficiencies and it leads you in all these different directions. And by the end of the movie, you're like, I don't care. I want Rock Hudson to come home and break me over his knee. And Doris Day, for whatever happened in her real life, has, I believe the expression is an ass that does not quit. It will not even give up, nor does it have a surrender flag. And she's in it, thank you. She's in a lot of very awesome gowns and dresses through the whole movie, and a couple of unbelievably questionable hats. There's a cabbage hat at one point that I think don't get hung up on, is all I'm asking. As a film viewer, do not get hung up on the cabbage hat. It also has, like Perry Mason and a lot of great movies from the 50s, super swinging set decor and painting. And the painter from this movie is a San Francisco painter named Ralph Ducasse. And especially in Tony Randall's office, Tony Randall plays a millionaire, bougie, overbearing white guy, which will seem very familiar in today's context, and because he's used to having women do what he wants. His office has extraordinary decor, and the paintings in it are by Ralph Ducasse, and you can look him up. He was an abstract painter from the 40s and 50s, and they chuck him in here because it looks so bitchin' McChicken. And Tony Randall is, everyone in this movie is hysterically funny, of course. It has a lot of groovy people. Thelma Ritter, who plays Doris Day's maid. And one thing that I've always said to Jennifer, and by the way, Jennifer curates this film club, my wife Jennifer, and she chose this picture for tonight. And we only have two criteria in here, which I've gone over with you before, and if you've come and you've heard me say this, I apologize. But one, is it awesome? Two, is it under 2 hours? We're never going to show a Tarkovsky movie here. We're never going to show Kubrick or anything long, because I want you to like me. And I want you to remember the film experience in a very positive way. And we find that movies that are 90 minutes to 110 minutes pretty much fills the bill, and then we can all fuck off back home and drink until the sun comes up and do all the things we want to do. So there's that. But I always say to Jennifer, the key to all motion picture filmmaking is to make sure everything's really old-fashioned. It's impossible when you make movies and there's way too much modern stuff in it or futuristic stuff in it. No one understands it and no one likes it. Even today, when people don't know what a rotary phone is or what a party line is, which is what this movie has in it, a movie like, say, for instance, The Matrix, which I realize is 20 years old. You remember in the movie they use dial-up phones and put them on cradles, and they go to phone booths and stuff, which was out of date then. This movie, she's got a maid. Now, I don't know any single woman in Los Angeles who has a full-time maid. But maybe you do. Maybe you hang out in Bel Air or something. She's a working girl. And by working girl, I mean by 1959 standards, she's 40. And she has a full-time maid played by Thelma Ritter, who is one of the greatest character actors that's ever been on in film. And she's fantastic in All About Eve, Pick Up on South Street, 100 different pictures that Thelma Ritter's great in, and she continues to be great in this movie. She was also nominated for an Oscar for this movie, and she did not receive an Oscar for this movie. Thelma Ritter was nominated 6 times for Best Supporting Actress and never won it. However, Walter Brennan won 3, and Walter Brennan was one of the most amazing fascist, racist assholes that was ever in American film. So you tell me how the Academy's changed over the years. The only 2 people who have more nominations that never won, I think, are Glenn Close and Amy Adams. I think Amy Adams has 100 nominations. And Peter O'Toole, who was nominated for Best Actor 8 times, and they finally gave him the consolation honorary Oscar. And apparently, when he went to that Oscar ceremony, Peter O'Toole, the wonderful actor, but mostly movie star, went and he said, is there anything to drink? And they went, we don't have any booze backstage. And he went, right then, I'm going. And they ran to the lobby and rustled up a bottle of vodka, and he drank it. And then he gave his awesome speech after. And I believe the quote from Peter O'Toole was, oh, there's no alcohol. That's a pity because I like a little drink. So you'll find that Thelma Ritter's character in this movie is, to use the old expression, sodden. And yes, there is the fantastic gag of her wearing an ice pack on her head. Again, no one has worn an ice pack on their head since 1959, as far as I know, but they're very effective. So they share, Rock Hudson and Doris Day share a party line in this movie. Now, there was a time when a phone was installed in your house, and it was a permanent installation. It had a gigantic cord that went like this, and it got plugged into the wall, and it did not come out of the wall. In order, you've seen in the old movies sometimes they'll get really angry and pull a phone out of the wall. That required like a week of calling people to fix. It was not a small matter. You could throw a phone at someone now and it'll bounce off them harmlessly and topple to the ground and then play some fucked up app as it falls down. And then in 1959, if you threw a phone at someone, you meant them grievous bodily injury because phones weighed 275 pounds and were made out of titanium. And they were porked into the wall. And no, not everybody had their own phone line. So after World War II, which isn't over, we're still fighting it, you may have noticed. Strangely, the Civil War and World War II have carried on for years and decades and hundreds of years in American history, and we're still going on them. After World War II, everyone wanted a telephone, and not everybody could get one. And the phone companies struggled to get everybody a line. So people had to share one phone line. So the phone would ring in your house, and you'd go, hello, and then there'd be someone on the line, on the other line going, hi, I'm talking on this line. Now, you act like I remember this. I don't. But I've seen it in the pictures, and you're going to see it tonight. However, I am old enough, and I grew up in Lancaster, California when I was very little, which is out in the, it's near, you take the 14 until you hit a meth lab. When you see a trailer blowing up in the distance, that's where Palmdale is. Then you turn left there, and then you go to Lancaster. Now, Lancaster was a different place when I lived there. It was full of, when we moved into the house that we lived on 5th Street East, we burned in a bonfire in my backyard an enormous pyre of tumbleweeds. You guys are like, I swear, every time I start to talk about the past, I really feel like the very face of time. People are so young now. When I say we burned tumbleweeds in a pyre in our backyard, they're like, was there wolves, Greg? No, I'm not Laura Ingalls fucking Wilder. This wasn't Little House on the Prairie, but this is what it was like in Lancaster in 1959. And what I'm getting at is, our phone number when I was little was 83581. Thank you. It had 5 numbers. Because we had a prefix that was WH. And you didn't dial the prefix. Now you notice on your phone, you dial 10 numbers, of course, if you dial at all. And if you still have a landline, which I doubt seriously, you'll find that you dial 10 numbers, and 7 numbers is your number. But in 1964 or whatever, 65, you had 7 numbers, and we only had 5 of them. And our next door neighbor's number was, I think, 83066. These are the things you memorize when you're 5 years old, before you go to school. We also used to play in refrigerator boxes that had paper plates tacked to the front and a little piece of cellophane here and pretend we were in the Gemini capsule. Now the crowd's like, I thought this was going to be funny instead of sad. So in any case, the whole premise of the Bloody movie is that Doris and Rock are sharing a party line, and that Rock is on the party line romancing girls every second of the day. And that Doris Day, because of her image up till 1959, won't let anyone touch her. And so after she made this movie with Rock Hudson, the movie's so sexed up that she was considered a little bit different and made a whole bunch of much more romantic comedies after this. And Rock Hudson had done a lot of serious movies up till then, including a particularly dreary version of Hemingway's Farewell to Arms, which, by the way, he turned down Sayonara, that Marlon Brando was in. He turned down Ben-Hur, which was made the same year, that won 11 Oscars. They wanted Rock Hudson to play Ben-Hur, you guys. Now, how hot of a fucking Ben-Hur? And never mind, when he wins the race against Masala, he'd be like, sorry. Guess what? I'm Jewish. And then all you'll be thinking of as a viewer is, oh my God, that means he's circumcised. This movie just got good. He turned those down so he could do Farewell to Arms. And then they offered him Pillow Talk. And Doris Day read the script, and she said, in 1959 parlance, I was crazy about it. And Rock Hudson said, it was too dirty. He almost fucking turned it down. They were best buddies, and all they did was laugh. There's a scene on the beach in this movie. That scene took 2 days to shoot because they wouldn't stop laughing. Because there's a scene when they kiss in it, and when they first kissed on screen, they smashed their teeth together. And they couldn't fucking hold it together. So they did a whole nother day of shooting where nothing happened except laughing. Tony Randall, getting back to his character in the movie, plays the best friend, which he does, by the way, in all 3 Rock Hudson Doris Day movies. He's Rock Hudson's best friend in 3 movies. Lover Come Back, and this one, and the other one that I mentioned that I can't remember. And, yeah, I know, Send Me No Flowers. And Tony Randall famously was on The Odd Couple on television for 5 years and won an Emmy for it, and he was fantastic. And then he was on another show after that called Yes, Sydney, where he played a judge, but was he gay? What? It was one of those movies, and TV shows, and it was in that era. And people flipped the fuck out because his character might have been gay and shit. Now, Tony Randall wasn't particularly gay, although he doesn't make much of a case for it. And I should talk. I'm not gay, and I make no case for it whatsoever. I'm up here gushing about Rock Hudson's dick for a fucking hour before a fucking film club. But you will gush too by the end. And hopefully he will. So we went to see, when Jennifer and I lived in London, because I couldn't get work at home, we lived in London for years. That was a joke. We lived in London, and we went to see a play of The Odd Couple. And they had put on The Odd Couple in London on the West End with Jack Klugman and Tony Randall from the TV show, right? And they played the theme song from the TV show at the beginning of the play and all that, dee, 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 right? And all these English people played the poker players. And they did American accents, which is just adorable. Not since Brad Pitt in the, what was the Guy Ritchie movie? Where he's the Irish guy or whatever. Not since Dick Van Dyke and Mary Poppins. Have you heard someone manhandle an accent the way these British guys did playing poker? Are you going to talk or are you going to play? And you're like, are you American? Oh, I get it. You're from Norfolk, Virginia. So we waited outside the stage door after, which is great fun. And if you ever go to London, you must wait outside the stage door because stars in London are different than stars in America. No one in London wears a baseball cap and pulls it down over their eyes and goes, get out of my line, I'm really busy concentrating on my character. They go to acting school so they know how to act. So that when they get on the stage, no matter what the fucking play is, they just snap into character, do it, and then when the play's over, they light up a cigarette and drink. That's what the acting style of England is. We saw Diana Rigg in Medea. And in Medea, at one point, she's barefoot on stage with the bloody knife in her hand because she's killed her own children. And an enormous metal panel fell 50 feet from the sky and smashes down on the stage and bounced off, and it was on a giant metal rope. And she stood like stock still with the blood, right? Then after the show, we waited for her to come out, and she came out in a mink coat and was like this, what? And you thought, well, I would be in an emotional wreck if I just pretended that I had murdered my children. But she's an English actress. I remember hearing Angela Lansbury interviewed once, and they played on Fresh Air, which, by the way, no one should ever subject themselves to. And go ahead, listen to NPR if you have to. And whatever. It's like Fox News for people who drive a Prius. I mean, why don't you just wear a sign on your head that says, I'm a fucking douche canoe that goes to Whole Foods? You don't have to. If you're listening to NPR, that's implied. So Terry Gross was interviewing Angela Lansbury, who, by the way, just passed away last year at the age of 205. And she played Mama Rose in Gypsy, right? And there's that insane scene at the end of the musical where she does this complete breakdown, for me, you know, and all that. And they played that, and then Terry Gross came back on and said to Angela Lansbury, how did you deal with that emotionally every night? And Angela Lansbury went, what do you mean? And she went, well, it's a very emotional scene, you're having a breakdown on stage. And Angela Lansbury went, yes. And she went, well, how did you deal with it off stage? And she went, what do you mean how did I deal with it off stage? I was acting. So there's that combo platter of technique and complete lack of human emotions that English people bring to the fore. So we're waiting outside the stage door, and Jack Klugman, and I don't know if you remember Jack Klugman, but he was a lovely actor, and very hangdog, I think was the expression to describe him. Yeah, Jack Klugman. Jack Klugman. And he had a big nose. And then he smoked a lot, and he lost his voice from it. And Tony Randall was fantastically, vehemently anti-smoking when this was still an issue. And they came out in character. Jack Klugman came out, I swear to you, in a baseball cap with a sweatshirt on. And Tony Randall came out in a blue blazer with a rep tie on, right? Jack Klugman came out, and we went, Mr. Klugman, and he went, yeah. And we said, how do you like it here in London? He went, I fucking love it here. And the reason why he loved being in London was there's bookmakers everywhere in London. And he could play the horses all the goddamn time, which is all Jack Klugman wanted to do. Take it. Besides act, was play horses. Then Tony Randall came out in a blue blazer and trousers like this. And we went, Mr. Randall, and he went, mm-hmm. And we went, Mr. Randall, are you going to take the play to Broadway? And he went, Broadway? I don't think so. I don't think Jack wants to go. And then skittered off into the night. And it was extraordinary how unbelievably in character they were off stage, that they had made no effort whatsoever to get into character because they were those fucking characters. And so you'll see in this movie that Tony Randall is absolutely bloody charming. And one last thing, there's a cabaret singer in this picture. Perry Lee, and I've got to get her name right here. Does anyone know her last name? What was it? Blackwell. Thank you, that's Jennifer. Perry Lee Blackwell. Oh, there it is, I have it written down. And there was a nightclub here over on Pico called the Parisian Room. And Perry Lee Blackwell was a very popular performer there. She's also in a Bette Davis movie from '64. Bette Davis, notably, not a racist at any point in her career. The less said about the politics of some of the other people in this movie, the better. However, Perry Lee Greenwell, you'll see, pops up in this movie in a cabaret scene, and she's a very bitchin' cabaret star, and her and Doris Day sing a little song in the movie. When you have Doris Day in a movie, there's really no way you can't have her sing a song. If you've ever seen The Man Who Knew Too Much, the Hitchcock movie, which is a very serious movie, about 3/4 of the way, or 5/8 of the way into the movie, Doris Day sings Que Sera Sera for literally no fucking reason whatsoever. Other than she was an enormously popular singer, and it was like, we can't make a movie without Doris Day without having her sing. Jimmy Stewart is a major bummer in that fucking movie. I'm sorry. I know there's a lot of James Stewart fans out there. My assertion is, if it had been Rock Hudson in Rear Window instead of James Stewart, then you would have understood why Grace Kelly was so fucking hot for him. I don't mean to be a drag, but no one's hot for James Stewart. Not even Harvey. And he imagined Harvey. James Stewart's a wonderful actor, he really is, and very funny, and he can play a lot of great roles, and his Anthony Mann westerns are unforgettable, and he is not fucking sexy. Sorry, there I said it. Throw me out of my own film club. Henry Fonda, on the other hand, Jesus Christ. He's no Rock Hudson, but hello. There you are. So, here we go. On a year when 400 Blows was made, and La Ventura and Ben-Hur won Best Picture, a movie that sets the standard for ribald sex comedies. And by the way, there's some gender-bendy wildness coming up in this movie, too, that you're probably not going to be ready for. And when it comes, hold on to your raisinets. That's a euphemism. And get ready for the super sexy Rock Hudson, the super sexy Doris Day, the hilarious Thelma Ritter and Tony Randall in the 1959 comedy the classic made by Michael Gordon, Pillow Talk.